Now, if we go to the enterprise enrollment document, and I've put the enterprise enrollment and the enterprise subscription enrollment next to each other, it states a lot around order requirements. And most interestingly, what are the minimums of an EA or an EAS? What commitments is there in the EA? You need a software advisor or a reseller for this. The difference here is a software advisor and a reseller can basically be the same company, but it mainly has to do with it being a direct or an indirect contract. The enterprise agreement is one that you sign with Microsoft, but in some geographies, the enterprise agreement is either direct, and in other geographies, it's indirect. This means that in a direct contract, Microsoft does the billing itself. In an indirect contract, the billing is handled by an intermediary, and that is usually your licensing solution partner. In either case, you always need a licensing solution partner on your EA. Microsoft requests this specifically because Microsoft is not doing the fulfillment of all subsequent orders. Microsoft executes an enterprise agreement, and after the start of the contract, you have your LSP to do all the fulfillment for subsequent orders in that contract. It further describes the adding of products midterm and an explanation of the true-up or an annual order in case of an enterprise subscription. These are the things that I explained earlier on in the presentation. And it states again that they hold the right to verify compliance. Now, next to that, when we're going to talk about this more, they state the possibilities around price level. Microsoft holds a couple of different price levels, and prices differ quite a bit between these different levels. So that's basically a discount if you're a larger organization. Payment terms, which is additionally mentioned on your customer price sheet, and what happens at the end of the enrollment or termination. So, steps to start and use an EA enrollment. So in order to sign up to an enterprise enrollment, you would first need to order a minimum of 500 devices or users for an enterprise product or an enterprise online service. In the case of on-premise product, a fully company-wide commitment is required. This again means that if you are stepping into an enterprise enrollment, you need to license all devices and or users in your organization. In the case of an enterprise online service, a company-wide commitment is not mandatory if you're solely licensing enterprise online services. So if you're interested in Microsoft 365 E3, for instance, you can license this for a minimum of 500 users, even if your company is 5,000 users. The reason for this, I don't know, but it's possible. Then, if you've decided what to standardize on, you order any and all additional products and additional online services. This can be anything that is not an enterprise product or an enterprise online service. And you need to apply a country of usage to this. Well, Microsoft will never ask you to do this, but it is called out on the CPS. It's a Microsoft internal thing, and it's done for the initial order and for subsequent orders that you're going to place. But licenses can always be freely used within the organization, regardless of where you assign the initial location. Then price levels. See the snippet on the right. It states the different price levels that Microsoft has. So you have an organization that is under 2,400 users or devices. Then you are in price level A, and if you are a company with 15,000 or more licenses, then you're in price level D. Now, the rule of thumb here is that between price level, there's a 6% difference on on-premises products and about a 3% difference on cloud subscriptions. 5, annual compliance. So when you've set up your enterprise enrollment, Then you have your annual compliance, that you have to add new products. If you're adding new enterprise products, you need to do this through Microsoft or your LSP, or if you're adding new additional products, you can order this at any time by placing an order, or in case of cloud subscriptions, reserving the licenses. For products that you have taken into account in your initial order, you have to do a true up, and you have to do this 30 to 60 days before your anniversary. And in this true up, you need to make sure that you order any and all additional on-premises copies. You consolidate any and all online service reservations. You have the option to reduce subscription licenses for enterprise online services only and additional online services. And you can identify if you want to do a step up or an add-on for products that you need. Step ups are basically going from a lower edition of a product to a higher edition. So if you're buying SQL Standard and you have a shortfall in SQL Enterprise, but you have more SQL Standard licenses than you need, you can step up your Standard license to Enterprise. If there's no change over a year in your enterprise agreement, you still required to do an update statement, and your LSP should do this with Microsoft to keep your enrollment in compliance. Then at the end of the term, you have the option to extend your enrollment for another 36 months. You will renew into a new enrollment with the baseline of products that you then need. You don't renew, and then you lose all your SA benefits and the rights to use any online service, unless extended term is in your contract. An extended term is just for cloud subscription licenses, where if you don't renew your contract, you will get a monthly invoice for the licenses against the then current list price for until you cancel that extended term. For the subscription enrollment, it's a bit similar. The changes are highlighted in blue. So you again start with defining your initial order. You add all additional products and additional online services. And then on the annual compliance piece, you have to place an additional annual, or the second up following annual order 30 to 60 days before your anniversary. The additional option that you have in your enterprise subscription enrollment is that you can change between user and device-based licenses. So if you're buying a suite of client access licenses for your users, but you notice that you have less devices than the amount of users that you have, then it might be worthwhile to change those in your contractual term from a user to a device basis. At the end of the term, what changes? If you don't renew, you need to buy out your products, or you need to make sure that you're no longer going to use any and all of the products that you're not buying out. Then for the server and cloud enrollment, similar to an EA or EAS, you identify the products that you want to standardize on. So if you have SQL, for instance, and you are willing and able to standardize on SQL licenses, the SCE will provide to you a 5% discount, programmatic discount on software assurance licenses, and 15% discount on licenses and software assurance. So for instance, true-up licenses or newly brought in licenses. If you want to put SQL into an SCE, you identify all installed copies that you have with or without SA, and you acquire software assurance for all licenses. You need to make sure that you buy at least the minimum order requirements per product. So for instance, for SQL, you have a certain amount of cores that you need to procure as a minimal amount to qualify for buying an SCE. I think it's around 50 cores or something that you need to buy. In an SCE, you can buy any and all additional products and additional online services as well. Not a lot of people know this, But anything that is not an SCE product, so not being core infrastructure, SQL, SharePoint, BizTalk, Visual Studio, you can buy as an additional product in an SCE. So if you do not want to standardize on anything devices or user-based, you can buy an SCE, and you still are able to buy additional products like Project, Visio, you name it, Exchange Server, etc., etc. On your annual compliance, this mimics the EA and EAS in the sense that you have a true-up, but you also need to take into account at the end of the term any subscriptions that you put into your SCE. And if you have subscriptions in your SCE, you might need to buy them out if you want to continue using these software licenses after the term of your server and cloud enrollment. So in all enrollment documents, you see this snip on the right-hand side, which asks for your enrollment details. And enrollment details is where you define your enrolled affiliate's enterprise. And you see a couple of options. You see enrolled affiliate only, enrolled affiliate and all affiliates, enrolled affiliate and the following affiliates, and enrolled affiliate and all affiliates with the following affiliates excluded. And on item 1B, you see if you want to include or exclude any affiliates that might join your organization throughout the term of your contract. Now, why is this very important? It lets you state who or what the contract is for. So if you want to procure only for a subset of your organization, this is where you need to call that out. So you can generally limit the scope. I've seen plenty of organizations that don't know the scope of their organization, but they, for instance, did know that a couple of entities within their organization should not participate because they're doing their own licensing. Then in that sense, you want to tick the final box and say every affiliate is included except these couple. This can be very interesting for server and cloud enrollments because it allows you very much to scope your organization, and as such, you can scope which licenses are included and not. So sometimes it might be very difficult to include all SQL installations for your entire organization, but you do know that for this specific affiliate, you have 200 cores of SQL Server Enterprise that you are running, or for this entire organization, except these affiliates, you don't know what your SQL usage is. Scope it as such, and then you're still adhering to the terms and conditions of the contract without breaking any of the rules of the committed model. Now, something that's quite new over the past years is the switch to purchasing agreements. Not all geographies have these as of yet. They might still come, but this is basically, and I won't go over this in too much detail, but if you're in a geography where purchasing agreements are available, this basically means Microsoft is billing directly from that subsidiary. In the past, Microsoft had 3 main operating centers that they used to invoice from. The AOC region, which is the America Operations Center, the Ireland Operations Center, which is for EMEA, and the Pacific Operations Center for Asia and Asia Pacific. With this change to a purchasing agreement, what they basically did is say, okay, you still sign a contract with Microsoft Ireland or the EOC, the EMEA Operating Center, but billing will be done by the subsidiary of Microsoft that is present in your country. So, for instance, in Netherlands, it's Microsoft BV. So, with a purchasing agreement, Microsoft BV gets to send you the bill. And why do they do this? Then they can add tax. Moving on, customer price sheet and the product selection form. So on the right-hand side, you see 2 snippets. The top better part of the top snippet is the product selection form, and the bottom is the header of the customer price sheet. These documents are important for the following reasons, because the customer price sheet holds the actual order and shows the price that you negotiated for your initial order for your organization. It shows a future pricing table, and the future pricing table will show you all your license pricing for additional orders. So if you sign up to an EA enrollment, you will have 3 annual installments that are listed on the CPS, but you will also have a table showing all the prices that are locked for additional purchases. They're called true-up prices, or they're called step-up pricing, and there can be higher additions of servers, software that you include in your initial order, and there can be online services prices. If it's not locked in your future pricing table, there's a couple of options. You cannot order it until it's locked. This is true for enterprise products and enterprise online services. So if you standardize on Office Pro Plus and you want to buy a Windows enterprise license, you cannot immediately do this. You need to go through Microsoft or through your LSP, need to get a quote, they need to add it to your EA. And as such, you're going to take and invest some time on this. For additional products, if they're not locked on your customer price sheet, you will be always able to order them, but it will always be against the then current list price. So you will not automatically get a discount on all Microsoft software and services. For that reason, we always do an investigation of what do you think that in the coming years of your contract will start to happen, and include maybe something in your future pricing for the products that might interest you towards the future. So the final pages of the CPS contain product notes and terms and conditions. So that's something you want to watch out for as well, because you don't want to get surprised in your legal review that you're doing. Always review the customer price sheet. The product selection form. The product selection form basically states, or is from Microsoft, the guiding entry of your contract to what price level do you qualify. So if you look at the snippet on the right hand side, you see here a customer that procures several different types of licenses. They buy 250 Office Pro Plus, 250 Enterprise Cal suites, 250 Windows Enterprise OS, and about 5,300 E5 user subscription licenses. These all total up to 5,550 licenses, and they will be divided into the different product quantities price groups that you see in the middle of the screen. And this is where your price level is being set. So group 1 will count all Office Professional Plus installations and Office 365 licenses that are in the initial order, and it will total that up. And in this case, it totals up to 5,550. And that means, if you look back at the previous slides, that 5,550 will be price level B. Now, why does it show 4 different entries on the product selection form? Well, the price group 1, 2, 3, and 4 cover different price groups. Price group 1 being the enterprise products. So for all enterprise products that you will order, you will qualify for level B. For price group number 2, that's price additional products that are listed in the server group, you will also get level B. Pricing group number 3 is applications. It's applications. You will get level B as well. And price group number 4 is what they call systems, and you will get level B as well. Now, in this example, it's all level B, but it might be that you're buying something that will have a one of the price groups in a higher number and others in a lower. And that means that sometimes you might see differing price levels based on your type of EA that you have. So always watch out for this, because it has an effect on your ordering. Obviously, your licensing solution partner will help you make sense of this and will give you a quote for any additional products that you want to add. I just thought I'd call it out because this is what Microsoft bases itself on. Then moving into the product terms, as said, is a dynamic product, dynamic document, and it's changed month over month. You can find it, the link on the screen. And it consists of an introduction, general license terms, software product specific terms, online services specific terms, and a lot of appendixes. It's a document that's about 100 plus pages long. Basically, it will tell you the rights that you have to use the Microsoft software, and it will tell you software specifics, or if there are any additional clauses of interest for a certain software product, and it does the same for online services. So when you sign up to a volume licensing agreement, either being in EA, CSP, etc., the product terms holds all these clauses, and they are of interest to you because they're tied to your contract. In the product licensing basics, we will use the product terms as a basis for explaining how Microsoft licenses its software products. The same with the online services terms. It can be found on the same page. It used to hold the Microsoft Online Services Data Processing Addendum. The DPA has changed to its own document, but it's referenced in the online services terms. So the online services terms now only covers the online services specific terms and any appendices or attachments that are of interest to these online services. So it might be a good idea to look at the product terms and the online services terms in a bit more detail. But before I do that, the applicable use rights is something that is listed in your enterprise agreement as well. And it states you what use rights apply. So like I said, the product terms and the online services terms are dynamic documents that are being changed month over month. But that doesn't mean that your rights to use the software or services change month over month. What changes month over month is the document, but your use rights are usually tied to the one that you signed at the date of your contractual anniversary date.